The question now, what does all this mean for Russia-Ukraine peace negotiations? Let's ask former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine from President Trump's first term, Bill Taylor. And we've also got former Assistant Secretary of State for Political Military Affairs under President George W. Bush, retired U.S. Army Brigadier General Mark Kimmitt. Appreciate both of you gentlemen for being with us. Happy New Year to you both. General Kimmitt, I want to start with you. Putin called Trump, it seems like, based on what Trump said at Mar-a-Lago the other night, and said they bombed my house. And now this intel seems to be coming out that says that just didn't happen. What do you think is going on here behind the scenes, General?
Well, I think this is classic Putin trying to rattle everybody and play sort of a 2 to 3 dimensional chess. He does not want to do these negotiations. He thinks he's winning. He's under pressure from the international community to at least show a facade of diplomacy. And now he's using this as an excuse to avoid that diplomacy. But look, this is a war. What does it matter in the first place? Zelensky's getting bombed every night by President Putin. So it seems to me to be sort of a sterile argument.
Ambassador, though, wouldn't Putin know that intelligence would then show he wasn't telling the truth? I mean, what was the point of telling President Trump that if then President Trump was just going to find out it wasn't true?
Putin lies a lot, Brian. Yeah. He lied when he first invaded Ukraine in 2014, when he sent his little green men into Crimea and then denied they were Russian soldiers. He lied to us when he was about to invade Ukraine in 2022. So he does this a lot. He knows he's going to get caught. He admits it later. He admitted that actually, it turns out they were Russian soldiers in Crimea. And it turns out they did invade. So he knows they're going to get caught. It doesn't bother him. He wants to try to get through to Trump. And Trump has now heard from the CIA. And this time, he's agreeing with the CIA.
Yeah, which sometimes in the past he said he doesn't necessarily believe what his own intelligence says, but it seems like based on some of his tweets and what he's put on Truth Social, he's not very happy with Putin right now and is taking the CIA for their word. General, how do you think things are going to play out in 2026? I mean, it seems like this has just gone on forever at this point. Are we actually getting closer to a peace deal? I mean, has there been progress, do you think?
Well, look, I know Ambassador Taylor and I may disagree on this, but I don't think that we're going to see a whole lot of significant difference in this war of maneuver. There's nothing happening on the battleground. On this war of attrition, both sides seem to be able to keep themselves armed, fitted, and fighting. And even this notion that they would exhaust themselves, that this war of exhaustion would be over anytime soon. So candidly, if you don't win it on the battlefield, if you don't run out of equipment, if you don't run out of the will to fight, I don't know what's going to stop this war, because the very reason they're continuing to fight on both sides means they think they can win. And as long as they think they can win on the battlefield, they have no reason to negotiate.
A lot of people sort of frame this, Ambassador, that like the pressure is on Ukraine to make a deal. But at the same time, you look at Russia and the people there, crazy inflation, economy is terrible, it seems like, and crumbling. Is the pressure higher than ever, Ambassador, on Putin right now? I mean, shouldn't he feel pressured to end all of this for his own sake, too?
Brian, he absolutely should. He absolutely should. There's pressure that is already there. There's more pressure, though. There's maybe decisive pressure that President Trump can bring. General Kimmitt, of course, exactly right. That the battlefield is going to be very important. And if President Trump decides to continue to provide and even increase the weapons flow purchased by the Ukrainians, purchased by the Europeans, but manufactured in the United States, these Tomahawk weapons that the Ukrainians can use, if the Ukrainians have the military capabilities, plus the sanctions. That's the other leverage that President Trump has. He can increase the sanctions that are already there. They're having an effect already. He's running out of money. Putin is running out of funds because of the reduced sales of oil and gas on the international market. So yeah, Brian, there's a lot of pressure that can come, and that's where the pressure should be. The Ukrainians, they are being very cooperative, and they're in agreement with the Americans and the Europeans on a peace plan.
And I asked the general this. I'm curious what you think, Ambassador. I mean, today's the first day of 2026. Do you think we're going to go a whole another year with this ongoing, or do you think we may finally see some kind of deal?
If President Trump uses the leverage he's got, we could see a deal this year. I agree with the general. General Kimmitt's right when he says the battlefield is going to be crucial. And the Ukrainians have shown for the last 4 years that they can stop the Russians with the funds, with the weapons, with the ammunition, with the support of the Americans and the Europeans. They can continue to do that. That's all they need to do. They just need to stop the Russians where they are, and President Trump can use the leverage he's got, and then it could end this year.
And just one last question for General Kimmitt while we have you on a different topic. This one's Iran. We've seen images coming out of Iran of just what looks like these massive protests there. Talk about a bad economy in Russia, similar situation in Iran. Here's some of the video right here of people out in the streets. Does this feel different to you, General, what's happening in Iran? We've obviously seen protests there before, but do you think people there are finally just totally fed up with the regime?
Well, there's an old saying that a changeover is never predictable until it's inevitable. We've been seeing the same set of videos now for probably 15 years. And in many ways, you're right. Compared to Russia, certainly the fact is that the sanctions are going to bite. The people are against the leadership. The inflation is going to cause the people to come out on the streets. All of these, we would like to believe, is going to cause the turnover of a dictator, whether it's in Iran or whether it's in Russia. But the fact is, they did not become dictators by necessarily listening to and adhering to public dissent and public opinion. They're in power because they're in power. So I think we have as little chance of something significant happening in Iran as we do on the battlefields of Ukraine. But these things, when they fall apart quickly, and they're unpredictable about when they're going to fall apart.
Yeah, we'll have to keep a close eye on it. Ambassador Bill Taylor, General Mark Kimmitt, appreciate both of you again, and again, Happy New Year to you both.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.